Hi, Oak Park family. This is Molly Smith, Assistant Principal, and I'm going to take you through standards-based grading, which we are implementing building-wide this year. So why are we going to standards-based grading? We wanted to make sure that regardless of the situation our student is in, if our students are all virtual, if they're with us a couple days of the week, if we eventually get to they're here all the time, if they're on a blended schedule, that whatever their situation was, whatever was going on at home, how do we make sure that their grade reflects what they know instead of what they're able to turn in? So we thought that standards-based grading would be a great way to show that. So let's start off with what is a standard. Standards are not changing. Teachers have always had standards. The state of Missouri gives us standards, and those are the skills and the content in each course. What standards-based grading does is it measures a student's progress towards learning that specific standard. It removes things such as behaviors, so their grades will no longer reflect behaviors. Instead, it should reflect only what a kid knows instead of learning that towards learning that standard. So what's it going to look like? So everything in the gradebook should be on a 10-point scale. You can see the 10-point scale there. And that grade will reflect a student's progress towards learning that standard. So on a zero on the 10-point scale means that the student did not turn anything in. They provided no evidence that they knew that standard. A 5 would be effort. So the student is trying. They are trying. A 6 would be that they can do fundamental things, but they still need help from their teacher. A 7 would be they can get the basic, simpler concepts completely on their own. An 8 would be that they get the simpler concepts, they don't quite get the complex concepts, they still need help from their teacher on the complex concepts. A 9 would be they've got those complex standards and they are doing great. And a 10 would be they'd be able to kind of go above and beyond. They might be able to put two concepts together. They can take it to a next level and really apply it to things. So that would be a 10. For all classes, a 7 and a 9 will be really defined for your students. So there should be no question about what they need to do to get a 7 or a 9. Teachers are also allowed to give grades like 7.5s, 8.5s, and that kind of thing. So with this, gradebooks are going to look a little bit different. Instead of seeing things in the gradebook like worksheet 1.2, you'll see standards in the gradebook. So you'll see things like learning target 1.2, solving equations. So based on the 10-point scale that I just showed you, if the learning goal was solving equations, 0 would be no evidence, they've turned nothing in. A 5 would be they're trying to solve equations, but they just don't get it. A 6 would be they can't quite solve simple equations yet, but they could if their teacher helped them. A 7 would be they can solve the simpler equations. An 8 would be like they can solve the simple equations and they can almost solve the more complex ones, they just need a little bit of help. A 9 would be they can solve the complex equations completely on their own. And then advanced might be something like they can write the equations or something a little bit further past solving them. So how can your student improve their grades? So after a unit is over, a student will have at least 1 unit or 2 weeks to turn in any late evidence of mastery without penalty. So this means if your student is gone for any reason, they still have 1 unit or 2 weeks to show that they know that learning target, to show that they can solve those equations or whatever the learning target is. The great thing about standards-based grading is if a standard is repeated in the future, so if solving equation comes up again later in the future, the student then has an opportunity to earn a higher score because it's already embedded in the curriculum and replace that previous score. So how is this going to look in Canvas versus PowerSchool? So Canvas is where all practice is going to happen and where all feedback will take place. Canvas is not the grade book. So if you want to see like what your student is doing and what feedback they are getting, you need to become a parent observer in Canvas and you can see it there. And they'll have many opportunities to practice each skill concept for that standard within Canvas. PowerSchool is where their grade will be. That's where you will see exactly where they are at on that standard. That's where the 7s will be, those 9s will be, those 8s, whatever the grade will be, that will be housed in PowerSchool. If you have questions about standards-based grading, please reach out to your student's administrator. We are happy to help. I think the most important thing to remember in this shift is if you have questions about your student's progress, to communicate those with their teacher. We want to help you and we want to help your students be successful, and we are looking forward to a great year.